Hello friends, my name is Ben and welcome to another Alchemy learning video. If you're new here, this channel is dedicated towards producing educational videos centered around human health. The oxygen dissociation curve describes how well oxygen binds to hemoglobin at different partial pressures of oxygen. So remember that hemoglobin is a complex of 4 proteins, each with a heme or iron group at their core. And this positively charged heme group is able to bind the negatively charged oxygen molecules, and this dramatically increases the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So in this graph, along the x-axis, we have the partial pressure of oxygen, or that is the amount of oxygen that is dissolved within the blood, and along the y-axis, we have the amount of oxygen that is bound to hemoglobin and thus forms oxyhemoglobin. So at the base of the curve, when the partial pressure of oxygen is low, there is little binding of oxygen to hemoglobin. But as the partial pressure of oxygen increases, so too does the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Now this process is really important for oxygen transport around the body. In the lungs, where oxygen pressure in the blood is high, hemoglobin loads up on that oxygen. And as that blood travels around the body to respiring tissues, the oxygen pressure of the blood falls. Now this reduces the ability of hemoglobin to hold onto that oxygen, and this causes it to be released, and that oxygen then becomes available to diffuse into working tissues. Now one thing that you'll also note about this curve is that the binding is not linear, and that is because as each oxygen molecule binds, it makes it easier for further molecules to bind until the entire process saturates. Now there are 3 factors that can influence the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen, and they are temperature, acidity, and carbon dioxide concentration. Increasing each of these results in a decreased capacity for binding. So we can see a comparison on the curve. For any given oxygen saturation, the binding capacity of hemoglobin is lower in the presence of these 3 factors, and this can actually be beneficial under some circumstances. Take an actively working muscle, for example. As the muscles contract and consume oxygen, they also produce heat, carbon dioxide, and acidity during that functioning. So the increase of those factors in the vicinity just around that active muscle reduces the capacity of hemoglobin to carry oxygen in that area, and it causes it to release more oxygen in that area, and that's the area where it's needed most, and it can diffuse into the muscle. Thank you for listening, and once again, if you found this video useful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing to help spread the word. And if you found this video particularly helpful, then I would be so grateful if you could head over to Patreon to further support the work. You can also find me on Facebook. Thanks again, friends, and see you next time.